Okay, we'll start. And there was little problem. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Sahana Vavatu Sahanu Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya avirāvirmayedhi. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadaatatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhurida Jana. Let we be protected, let we be nourished. Let we strive with energy and vigor. Let our study be enlightening and not give rise to hostility. Om peace, peace, peace. Lead us to truth and not to untruth. Lead us to enlightenment and not ignorance. Lead us to immortality and not death. Let the self-manifest Atman grow in me. Om peace, peace, peace. Your nectar-like words and warm and inspiring life stories, eulogized by learned sages, are indeed eradicator of shoots of ignorance. These are auspicious to hear and propitious to inculcate in one's own life. Those who take these words to the world are indeed great benefactor of the world. As we see, there are two things, as we have chanted the Shanti mantra, Sat and Asat. Asato ma Sat gamay. Not to untruth, but to truth. Similarly, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. We see darkness, but we want to reach what is light there. And then we want to reach to that which is immortality and not death. Now, these two are seen in this world. And when we study Vedanta, we say this world is temporary. It is not me, it is our teachers, our scriptures. This world is temporary, and we see it also. It is temporary. We experience, and that trails away from us. So temporary means what? Does it exist or not exist? So Vedanta says it is swapnavat, like dream. So here in our dream, what happens? There is a dreamer and then dream. So dream is temporary, but dreamer is real. That is why he remembers, he or she remembers. Similarly, this world also, whatever it is, we perceive through 5 sense organs: eyes, ears, skin, touch, taste, and smell. This is our experience. So experiencer is real, but experienced, whatever we experience, that is temporary. Now, what about incarnation? Let us read from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. It is good, very nice. So I'll read a little more so that we know the context, and then we'll go forward. One day I had the vision of consciousness. Now you can see Sri Ramakrishna had vision of consciousness. What kind of consciousness? Non-dual and indivisible. Non-dual, there are no two. Undivided, indivisible. It cannot be divided. So Sri Ramakrishna is experiencing. At first, it had been revealed to me that there were innumerable innumerable men, animals, and other creatures. Among them, there were aristocrats, the English, the Muslims, myself, scavengers, dogs, and also a bearded Muslim with an earthenware tray of rice in his hand. He put a few grains of rice into everybody's mouth. I too tasted a little. Now, this is all experience of Sri Ramakrishna. Consciousness, non-dual, indivisible. Another day I saw rice, vegetables, and other food stuff. So what he says, like a scientist, how he sees this world. Theoretically, he sees that this whole world is matter. Ultimately, when we analyze, matter is nothing else but energy and energy alone. Though it may manifest in so many different forms, but it is energy and energy alone. So another day he saw rice, vegetables, and other food stuff, and filth and dirt as well, lying around. Suddenly, the soul came out of my body and like a flame touched everything. So that means again, similar experience, that unity. It was like a protruding tongue of fire and tasted everything once, even the excreta. It was revealed to me that all these are one substance, the non-dual and individual consciousness. So this is experience. Now, another day it was revealed to me that I had devotees, my intimate companions. Now see another thing. Now he has devotees. So undivided self, but then he felt that there are devotees. My main, my very own. Thereafter, I would climb to the roof of the kuti as soon as the bells and conch shells of the evening service sounded in the temples, and cry out with a longing heart, "Oh, where are you all? Come here, I'm dying to see you." And then he asks to him, "Well, what do you think of these visions?" So M replies, "God speaks through you. This I have realized, that you are the instrument and God is the master. God has created other beings as if with a machine, but yourself with his own hands." Master. Well, Hazrat says that after the vision of God, one acquires the 6 divine powers. That means 6 powers. But Sri Ramakrishna then later says, perhaps Hazrat was a poor man, so he discards that. Then after that, then he says, yes, it is just like the sun as dawn. M said, many a time you have said that a devotee who loves God for the sake of love does not care to see God's powers. A true devotee wants to see God as Gopala. In the beginning, God becomes the magnet and the devotee the needle. But in the end, the devotee himself becomes the magnet and God the needle. That is to say, God becomes small to his devotees. Master, yes, it is just like the sun at dawn. You can easily look at that sun. It doesn't dazzle the eyes. Rather, it satisfies them. God becomes tender for the sake of his devotees. He appears before them, setting aside his powers. 282. Somebody is asking? Okay. So, after that, Sri Ramakrishna asks that, what do you think about this? M, why should your visions not be real? Because he asked, um, no, he is just like the sun at dawn. You can easily look at that sun. It does not dazzle the eyes, neither it satisfies them. God becomes tender for the sake of his devotees. He appears before them, setting aside his powers. Both remained silent for some time. Him, why should your visions not be real? If they are unreal, then the world is still more unreal. For there is only one mind. That is the instrument of perception. Your pure mind sees those visions, and our ordinary minds see worldly objects. Master, I see that you have grasped the idea of unreality. Well, tell me what you think of Hajra. Oh, I don't know. Master, well, do you find me to be like anybody else? No, sir. Master, like any other Paramahamsa? M says, no, sir. You can't be compared to anybody else. Master, smiling, have you heard of a tree called the Achina? M, no, sir. Master, there is a tree called by that name, but nobody knows what it is. So we have seen how Sri Ramakrishna experienced non-divisible consciousness. But in that consciousness, he also finds that he has some devotees. Undivided becomes divided. That means devotee and himself. Why it is so? It is because he wants to grace the devotees. Out of compassion, he wants to lead devotees. That's why he would call the devotees from the top of Puthi. And then he says, this kind of thing is unrecognizable. Now, is this experience wrong? Not at all. Why? Sri Ramakrishna said, pure mind, pure intellect, and pure self is one and the same thing. See, as of now, our mind is not pure. We see things differently. We see an ornament. We see, oh, this is a very good ornament, or this is not good. But if a person develops one's eyes, he can see gold in all ornaments. As of now, we see world, we divide. He is my dear, he is my enemy, he is not dear. He is my own, he is not. So this way we divide. But for a realized soul, though he may look different things like Muslim and Christian and then dog, Suni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshina, as Gita says, that one looks all with same equal sight, same equal giving honor, same equal honor. So this is because what? His mind is clear. His sight is clear. For us, it is not clear. Something is closer to us. Like the other day, Akshay asked a question. Why Sri Ramakrishna blessed only Girish Chandra Ghosh? So Bhagavan said in the Bhagavad Gita that Namedeshyasti na priya. So nobody is my let me have the translation. He said, Samoham sarva bhuteshu. All bhutas are equal to me. Namedeshwasti na priyaha. So the realized soul, say incarnation. Incarnation, for him, all are equal to him. But Samoham sarva bhuteshu namedeshwasti na priyaha. I am the same to all beings. To me, there is none hateful or dear. But those who worship me with devotion are in me, and I too am in them. And then Bhagavan says, if even a very wicked person worships me with devotion to none else, he should be regarded as good, for he has rightly resolved. And then he quickly becomes Dharmatma. So what is the point here? That there is no discrimination in the sight of God. God does not discriminate. But what happens? Devotees love him. So naturally he also loves. Like this. Mother is happy that her children are playing. But suppose one child says, no, I have played enough. Now let me go to my mother. So naturally, mother also feels for that child. So incarnation is like that. And incarnation and all the divine Leela is not false. It is real. Why? Because all these happens in pure mind. Pure mind, pure intellect, and pure self is one and the same thing. So whatever happens, that happens in reality. What Vedanta tries to find, the Vedanta tries to find out the misperception that we have while interacting with the world. We segregate, we separate, and what we do, something is dear to us, something is rejectable for us, and something we want to gather, we want to hold. So we have some desha and some priya, but for God, name deshwasti na priya. Only thing that some devotees, they want to love God. So God also feels for them. So this is and what happens, like Girish Chandra Ghosh, though apparently he was a ruffian, he was a bad person, but internally he was burning. He was seeking God with intense love. And that is why he got Sri Ramakrishna. And there is another thought. When God wants, then only that earnestness, the seeking that comes. It is said, Vinu satsanga vivek na hoi, Rama kripa vin sulabh na soi. Without satsanga, this power of discrimination does not come. But that also does not happen without the grace of God. So if God graces someone, he also loves God. So this is another point of view by which we can understand if once God wants to grace someone, naturally he cannot live without him. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna says, that when God sports, then it is real, because nothing can be wrong in pure mind. Then what kind of differentiation it is? It is like Sri Ramakrishna gave in another place. It is like water, and you put a line. See, Sri Ramakrishna would merge in God, but sometimes he would ask mother, no mother, I don't want to be unconscious, like Bihushute China. So what is, he wanted to sport, but many times he would not find his ego. So this is a wonderful Leela where he keeps a little trace of ego and then he interacts with devotees, with the devotees. So with this introduction, we'll go forward. Paul is there?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So we're on chapter 12, section 3, the master's stay at Shayampakur. 1. The master sees wounds through his subtle body. The cause of his cancer is his taking on the sins of others, the effects of this. One day in Shayampakur, the master had an incredible vision. He saw his subtle body come out of his gross body and move around the room. He noticed some wounds on the back of his throat and was wondering how those wounds came to be when the Divine Mother explained it to him. People who had committed various sins had become pure by touching him, thereby transferring their sins to his body and causing those wounds. At Dakshineshwar, the master had sometimes told us that he would not hesitate to be born millions of times and suffer for the good of humanity. So it is not surprising that instead of being perturbed by this vision, he narrated it to us joyfully. We were moved by thus remembering and discussing his infinite grace, and the devotees, especially the younger ones, made special efforts to ensure that no newcomers bowed down to the master or touched his feet until he had recovered his health. Some devotees, remembering their previous wayward lives, resolved not to touch the master's pure body again. Narendra and a few others heard of the master's vision and found in it the truth of vicarious atonement, in which one voluntarily takes upon oneself the suffering caused by the sins of others, a fundamental doctrine of Christianity, Vaishnavism, and other faiths. They began to think about this and to explore its possibilities.
You see, like Girish Chandra Ghosh or Kalipada Ghosh and some others, and some actresses. That time actresses means they had other life also. So Sri Ramakrishna graced many such people, and because he accepted those sins or their bad karmas, so this happened. That is what, when there is duality, all these are to be accepted. Yes.
2. The devotees put restrictions on newcomers. When Girish saw how the devotees were attempting to prevent newcomers from visiting the master, he told them, "There isn't any harm in trying to do this, but your efforts will fail because he, the master, has assumed a body for that very purpose. As a result, strangers were kept from touching the master, but it was not possible to stop newcomers whom the devotees knew. Other rules then came into effect. Strangers would not be allowed to approach the master. If the devotees knew the visitors, they would be allowed to bow down to the master, but not to touch his feet. However, sometimes these rules were broken when the devotees encountered a newcomer with intense longing.
Yeah, sometimes it is recorded that when such devotees would come and touch the feet of Sri Ramakrishna or Holy Mother, they would be in pain, and then they would take Ganga water and wash their feet. This happened with Mother, this happened with Sri Ramakrishna also. So, what is the point? Point is, God has created all, everything. 10th chapter, Bhagavan says, Sukham Dukkham Bhavo Bhavo, Bhavo Abhavo, Bhayam Cha Bhayam Evacha. So, whatever we see, so darkness, it looks like darkness, but actually it is less light. So, Abhava, it is only Bhava. So, Vaishnava philosophy says God is Ananta Kalyana Guna Sampanna. Ananta Kalyana means all auspicious, infinite number of qualities, auspicious qualities. So there is no negative qualities in God. Purity personified. But in creation, everything is there. As Sri Ramakrishna said, if there is a fruit tree which is sweet, there must be some bitter also. And there may be some poisonous also. Animals also, there are so many kinds. Some are helpful, some are ferocious. So, in God's creation, everything is possible. When a painter paints, the painter uses many colors, all kinds of colors, even black colors. Otherwise, the picture is not clear. Even the villains are also required. If Sri Ramakrishna would come and enjoy only company of Naren, Rakhal, etc., what is the beauty of it? But he had to have the compassion for lowly, for downtrodden. Then only we see his glory. So he creates all kinds of things, and also he shows the way to go beyond. It does not mean that we should be bad. Rather, we should try to be good. So that is the purpose. In God's creation, everything belongs to him. Even the villains, even the terrorists. Without that, there is no police. And so many people will lose their jobs. So everything is required in God's Mahamaya. And it manifests in so many forms. See, we cannot hang in the air. There should be some ground, then only we can sit. Then there should be some chairs. So it is like that. So all are required in a manifestation. So yes, go ahead.
3. An actress visits the master with the help of Kalipada. An amusing incident took place related to the above rules. When the master lived at Dakshineshwar, he went one day to see a religious drama in a theater managed by Girish and praised the performance of the actress who played the lead role. At the end of the play, the actress had the good fortune to take the dust of the master's feet when he was in ecstasy. From then on, she considered the master to be a living God. She cherished a heartfelt love and respect for him, and she was now looking for an opportunity to see him once more. When she heard of the master's terminal illness, she was extremely eager to see him. As she knew Kalipada Ghosh, she fervently requested him to take her visit the master. Kalipada was a follower of Girish in every respect and considered the master to be the avatar of this age. He did not believe that the master's illness would grow worse if a repentant sinner touched his holy feet. He therefore felt no fear and did not hesitate to take the actress to the master. One evening, he secretly advised her to dress like a gentleman with hat and coat and took her to the Shayampakur house. He introduced her to us as his friend, took her to the master, and told him who she really was. We were not then in the master's room, so they faced no obstacles. When the fun-loving master learned that the actress had dressed like that to hoodwink us, he laughed heartily. He was pleased by her faith and devotion and praised her courage and cunning. He advised her to cultivate faith in and reliance on God, gave her a few spiritual instructions, and then shortly bade her goodbye. With tearful eyes, she bowed down to the master, placing her head at his feet, then left with Kalipada. The master told us this story later, and when we saw him laughing and joking about the trick that had been played on us, we could not be angry with Kalipada.
Yes. So that actress was Vinodini Dasi, and Sri Ramakrishna went to see a drama, Chaitanya Leela, and she played the lead role of Chaitanya. So she was very devoted, and Sri Ramakrishna blessed her there also. But when Sri Ramakrishna was growing or had cancer, she wanted to visit. So and then Niranjan, Swami Niranjananandji, it's a huge person. He would stand in the gate, at the gate, with a staff at his hand. So nobody dared to go. But when Kalipada did this way, they could not imagine that was an actress. So this way, see, this is all kinds of Leela, divine play. That is why it is so sweet even to remember this. And devotees never tired to remember such incidents. Say Ramayana, we have heard so many times, but it never gives us that sense of tiredness to hear again and again. So Puni Puni, that it says in a song, that though we hear many times, but we are not tired of hearing Leela of Rama. Similarly, Sri Ramakrishna. So here the photos are there. Kalipada and Vinodini Dasi. Yeah, go ahead.
4. The reason for the upsurge of sentimentalism among the devotees. Due to their association with and service to the master, faith and devotion increased day by day in the devotees' hearts. But a dangerous situation arose. They began to move away from true spirituality as they grew to prefer temporal emotional excitement over firm renunciation and austere self-control. They did not understand that although their momentary ecstasies might be inspired by religious feelings, if they were not based on renunciation and self-control, they could not give them the strength to vanquish lust, anger, and other invisible enemies. There are several causes for this kind of outbreak of sentimentalism. First, it is human nature to adopt the easiest or most comfortable practices. That is why most people who practice religion try to follow both paths, God and the world, renunciation and enjoyment. Some fortunate ones can see that these two paths are as contrary in nature as light and darkness. They do not fall into that error because they understand that it is impossible to harmonize both without compromising the ideal of complete renunciation for God. Those who want to maintain both paths soon set limits on their journey towards ideal renunciation and thus anchor their lives in the world forever. For that reason, whenever a newcomer came, the master would put him through various tests to see whether he would be satisfied with limits on his spiritual journey. If this was the case, the master would give only as much advice about the ideal of renunciation for God as the newcomer could assimilate.
So one thing, renunciation. People have very different ideas about religion. In India, it happened, don't touchism. Like I have seen in my young age that if it is touched by lower caste, the pots were earthen, so they would throw it away. So this is one kind, they thought this is religion. But Swami Vivekananda came and said that this is not religion, it is don't touchism. I am holier than thou. Where religion teaches that all are the manifestation of God. So one has to honor all. Similarly, devotion. This is Ramakrishna, while chanting the name of God, would weep, sometimes dance, sometimes, maybe totally absorbed. So people try to imitate. And similarly, they also try to weep. Swami Vivekananda would pull their legs, that he is a Sakhi. Sakhi means feminine companion of Radha. So this way he used to cut jokes and criticize them, so that wrong kind of practices should not creep in. That happened in Vaishnavas, like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Kirtan. So his devotion is genuine, but many people tried to imitate. So that is not the way. If it comes naturally, then it is okay. So here sentimentalism, that is not religion. That weakens. And the fundamental thing is whatever weakens oneself, that is not good for him. Whatever gives confidence, strength, that is good. Whatever gives joy, that is good. Whatever gives doubt, that is not good. So sentimentalism is like that. So that may weaken a person. That will not give strength. And that is why it is not to be cultivated. But some devotees were doing it. So now, this is the advantage of the incarnation, that we know various aspects and examples also. Yes, go ahead.
Whoops.
Because.
Right. Because the master's teachings varied according to the competency of the individuals involved, his spiritual instruction to householder devotees was different from what he gave to his young disciples. While addressing the general public, he would say, "In this Kali Yuga, the only way to cultivate spirituality is by chanting the Lord's name and following the path of devotion prescribed by Narada." Religious practice and study of the scriptures was then so rare that it was doubtful that 1 in 100 understood what he meant by Narada's way of devotion. Most people did not know that Narada taught that one should renounce everything out of love for God. So it is not surprising that the master's inexperienced devotees, under the spell of their weak nature, sometimes fell into error by attempting to maintain both worldly life and spiritual life, and considering extreme emotionalism to be the pinnacle of religious experience. Another reason the devotees fell into this error was that the master had practiced his severe austerities and self-control before their arrival, so they did not see the firm foundation on which his divine ecstasy had been established. The primary cause of this excessive sentimentalism was that when Girish took refuge in the Master and became firmly convinced that the Master was the avatar of this age, he began to declare it loudly in front of all with great jubilation and enthusiasm. Although many devotees had realized this about the Master, he had forbidden them to divulge it, so they kept silent. All along, the Master had told them that shortly before he passed away, many people would recognize him as an avatar. But Girish was a different sort of person. He could keep nothing in his life secret, be it good or bad. Girish could therefore not obey the Master's prohibition. He forgot that it was his sharp intellect, his phenomenal life and various experiences, and his infinite zeal and faith that had made him understand the greatness of the Master's divine power and had helped him to surrender to him completely. So he loudly insisted that others must do what he had done himself.
Yeah. So Girish, similarly, like Girish, M is Mahendranath Gupta also realized Sri Ramakrishna is not not an ordinary person, but an incarnation of God. But he did not declare like that, like Girish Chandra Ghosh. Ramchandra Datta also similar. Though he later, uh, he started speaking before Girish Chandra Ghosh, but not like Girish Chandra, like openly. He did not do that much. Then all the direct disciples, they also realized Sri Ramakrishna is not an ordinary person, and he was incarnation, because that is what they could understand. But Girish was completely different, and people tried to imitate Girish also. So yeah, we'll go ahead and then we'll see.
As a result, those who had listened to Girish, disregarded the need for self-effort, spiritual disciplines, renunciation, and austerities, and began to say glibly, "We have given him the power of attorney," and "We have surrendered ourselves to him," thus making their spiritual lives comfortable. Girish's infinite love for the Master could have prevented him from preaching that way, but his keen intelligence convinced him that the Master had assumed a body to establish a new wheel of Dharma by stopping the decline of religion. Girish also believed that the Master was voluntarily undergoing the suffering of birth, old age, and disease in order to give shelter to afflicted humanity. Moreover, Girish believed the Master would not give up his body until his mission was fully accomplished. So Girish found nothing wrong in calling people to come and take shelter in the Master and achieve peace and divine bliss as he himself had.
So Sri Ramakrishna would say that Girish had 125% faith, whatever Sri Ramakrishna says, and his complete faith. Panch shike panch ana. Panch shike panch ana means say 5 quarters and 5 say 6 quarters, and then one extra anas. It's difficult to translate. Say more than 125%, maybe 130%. So he had that complete faith in Sri Ramakrishna, and he believed that Sri Ramakrishna is pretending this illness, and he tried to bring as many as people as possible. So because of this, because many people did not see the tapasya that Sri Ramakrishna underwent previously for 12 years, so they could not understand that they are to cultivate their spiritual life with firm preparation, with renunciation, So they just wanted to imitate Sri Ramakrishna. Yes, go ahead.
5. Ram tries to intensify his spiritual mood by imitating Girish. Girish's keen intelligence and persuasive reasoning overpowered the critical faculties of Ram and other senior devotees. We have mentioned earlier that Ram had been born into a Vaishnava family. It is therefore not surprising that as he saw the divine power become manifest in the master, he believed that the master was identical to Krishna and Gauranga. Before Girish began to preach that the master was an avatar, Ram expressed his own belief to others in a very restrained way. But with Girish's support, the passion of his belief increased greatly, and he now not only proclaimed the master to be an avatar, but also busied himself with tracing the identity of the master's devotees to those of Krishna and Gauranga. And those who exhibited physical changes or sometimes lost outer consciousness in a momentary surge of emotion occupied a high spiritual rank in his estimation.
Yeah. So this way, his time was wrongly spent. Rather, one should concentrate to uplift oneself. And we find when Swami Vivekananda came to the States, he did not preach Sri Ramakrishna much, maybe 2 lectures altogether. Other than he preached principle, because he was very clear in his mind that he did not want to start a cult. Rather, he wanted to invigorate all the religious paths by citing the examples and citing the principles, giving the principles to the people. But here we find a different scenario, and that was not right. So gradually it was corrected also. Yeah.
6. Vijay Krishna Goswami inflames the situation. When many devotees firmly believed that the master was an avatar of the age and were allowing themselves to be carried away by this sentiment, Vijay Krishna Goswami came from Dhaka to see the master. In front of all, he declared that one day while he was meditating in his room in Dhaka, the master had physically appeared before him, and Vijay had confirmed the master's presence by touching his limbs. This added fuel to the fire, and various emotions arose among the devotees. At that time, 5 or 6 devotees were experiencing some physical changes and losing partial consciousness when they heard devotional songs. Setting aside common sense and the royal path of discrimination, they now became accustomed to waiting eagerly and in suspense for another miraculous manifestation of the master's divine power.
You see, Vijay Krishna Goswami was one of the Brahmo devotee and very advanced. And Dhaka is in Bangladesh, the capital of Bangladesh now. That time, India was not divided, so people could easily go, and he was posted there, and his room was locked from inside. When he was meditating, he saw Sri Ramakrishna. So he doubted, but then he touched Sri Ramakrishna and found it is real. The experience was real. You know how this happens? Even, like children, they see ghosts. And also like scientists, when they contemplate on some truth, they see the truth. Kekule, one scientist, he was unable to understand how electrons move. So Kekule, he had a dream that a snake was swallowing its own tail. So that way he got the idea that electrons are moving surrounding the nucleus. So similarly, what I'm saying, that when you think intensely something, one manifests. And when you are meditating on God with form, God also appears with form. God is under the um, influence of devotees. Whatever devotees want, God has to accept that. So, and another devotee was there. He also once told that he saw Sri Ramakrishna in Dhaka. So Narendra said, how can I disbelieve that I also saw him in my house so many times? Sri Ramakrishna would go to him and instruct. Apparently, it looks impossible, but I gave examples like if you are meditating on something, you'll have some manifestation, even gross manifestation. Subtle we can understand, but gross manifestation, it's possible. Like people, we can see stigmata, that Saint Francis of Assisi, he used to imagine that he is Christ, and lo and behold, he used to get that piercing of his hands nailed. So this world is what it is. We can also say that it is ideas, and ideas manifested. So it is possible, it is not that impossible that Sri Ramakrishna appeared before him. And Narendranath certified that, what about that? I also saw many times in my room when everything is closed, but he appears before me and instructs. So this is not impossible, it is possible, and that happened. And because of that, he was expressing to devotees about the divinity of Sri Ramakrishna, and that caused that flaring up. Yes.
7. Narendra tries to curb that excitement and increase renunciation and self-control among the devotees. Why the master did not take action? The astute Narendra, whom the master had made foremost among his devotees, observed that the devotees had come to regard this excessive emotionalism as the culmination of religion and were considering renunciation, self-control, and steadfast devotion as insignificant. Narendra knew that this attitude, if indulged freely, could eventually lead them into great danger. He explained this to the devotees and made a special effort to protect them from any negative consequences. One may question why the master remained aloof when he knew that some of his devotees were going astray. The answer is that he was not indifferent. He knew that genuine devotion was one of the paths to God realization and that some of those devotees were truly fit for it. He was looking for the right time and opportunity to guide them along that path. We heard him say many times, one doesn't attain success suddenly by a mere wish. It happens in the course of time. And success in a particular matter comes at the proper time. It may be that he had observed Narendra's determination to remove the devotee's error, and was awaiting the result. It may also have been his intention to use Narendra as an instrument to accomplish that task.
Yeah. When Swamiji came to the West for the second time, he said manliness He also preached manliness, to cultivate manliness. That means courage. That means renunciation, strength of character, man making education, man making character building education. So always he stressed that all the good qualities should come. Abhayam in Bhagavad Gita also. Abhayam Shatta Samshuddhim Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti. Knowledge, fearlessness, purity of mind, not indulging in worldly things. These are the strength of spiritual life. Abhayam Satta Samshuddhi, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti, Danam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyaya Stapa Arjavam. So all these qualities are enumerated in our scriptures. Dana, donation, and controlling of external instruments, external avenues, eyes, ears. Not that whatever it goes, it's like animal, not like that. And similarly, control of inner senses. Whatever is, it should follow whatever instruction is given to that essence. So that's why we started Vivek Chudamani. Mind wavers. So mind is to be controlled. How to be controlled? That controlling of mind, that is important. So these are the qualities one should inculcate. Spirituality is not for weak people. Nahi atma balhinena labhya, na medhaya, na bahuna srutena. It's not that one hearing for eternity. No. One has to cultivate these strong qualities. Say Swamiji, it's a valorous, courageous. He not afraid of anything. And that's why Sri Ramakrishna loved him so much. Not namby-pamby. He is not discouraged by any unsuccess endeavor. So these are the qualities that one should cultivate. Spirituality is not just hearsay or lots of reading. No, nothing. Purity of mind, purity of behavior pattern. These are the things. Yes. Oh, the time is up. We will stop here. Is there any question? Akshay is there, so there must be some question.
I
Akshay?
have. Yes.
Eh?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
What should we do if we do something wrong? Then what should we do?
Don't worry about it. Whatever is done, done. You cannot, if you repent the whole life, you cannot wash that off. Okay. But resolve that hence onward you will not do again. And be strong there. For that, you have to pray to God. Pray to Mother. Mother, I'm your child. Give me that strength, that power of control, so that I don't repeat the same mistake again. Right? So go forward. As you go forward, if you go to the east, the west is left behind. So whatever happened, not to worry about it. And resolve that not to repeat the same mistake again. So that way, and one day will come when you'll forget what happened. That is like a bad dream that happened. Right?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll say our prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamivavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tatsat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Namaskar.
Pranam
Pranam.
Swamiji.
Namaste. Namaste.
Ram
Hari-
Swamiji.
Namaste.
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 Pranam.
Swamiji. Namaste. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Pranam.
Namaste.